All right, so we're gonna go ahead and do number 1 here. And so I have my piecewise function up here, okay? And we have James's 2019 income as $111,000. But that's not actually what we're gonna be plugging into the piecewise function. So I'm gonna start off with that $111,000. But we're going to be able to subtract some stuff out. So the first thing we're going to subtract is the above the line deductions. So that's anything in this box. So student loan interest, IRA contributions, or alimony paid. Out of those 3 categories, I notice the only thing I notice is the individual retirement account. James had $3,000. And so I'm always going to start off, the first thing I do is find those above the line deductions. And so I'm going to subtract that out. Okay, the next thing I'm going to look for is, I actually split it up here. So let me split it up because I have 2 options, and I'll color code this. So the first option is what's called the standard deduction, and so that is always subtracting 12,200. And the second option is the itemized deduction, so that's kind of the sum of all of these 3 right here. And so in this case, I see that we have medical expenses, we have charitable contributions, and then we have state and property tax. Now, one thing about the state and property tax, it says that there's a $10,000 max out of all 3 of these together. In this case, we only have 2, but even though it adds up to $20,000, we're only allowed to do a max of $10,000. So my sum for all 3 of these pink categories would be $10,000 because I'm restricted there, my $10,000 max. The $1,000 and the $500 would be subtract $11,500. So this is how all these problems should set up. You got to find the above the line deductions first, which are in this category. You got to compare here. 12,200 will always be the same. This one is a combination of all of these categories with only $10,000 max in that one. And then we're going to actually do our subtraction here, but we're not allowed to take both of these. It's one or the other. You're always going to want to take the bigger one. So I'm going to cross off the smaller one. I'm going to keep the bigger one. I'm going to do this subtraction. So I'm just going to subtract $111,000 minus $3,000 minus $12,200. And when I do that, I get 95,800. So that is my taxable income. That's not how much tax I owe. That tells me then what number I'm going to plug into this function. So I'm going to plug in now 95,800 instead of the 111,000. So I see it still fits into that category. So I'm going to be plugging it in right there. So on my calculator, I'm going to do 14,382.5 plus 0.24 times, and instead of x, of course, I'll put 95,800 minus 84,200. So I would definitely just type all that in the calculator, and I get out that we owe $17,166.50. All right, so then the next question, it says that James's company withheld $10,000 from his paycheck throughout the year. And so is this too much or too little? So he was supposed to pay $17,166.50. He's only paid $10,000 so far. So that $10,000 is they took that money out of his bank account, or not his bank account, out of his paychecks and sent it to the government and said, okay, James is paying this $10,000. So it was not enough. It was too little. And so he's going to have to pay the difference. So he was supposed to pay $17,000. He paid $10,000. So he's going to have to pay the $7,166.50 more. So I subtracted the difference there from what he was supposed to pay and what he actually paid, and the difference was the $7,166.50. So if he would have paid too much, they would have sent him a refund. They would send him a refund with that extra money back.